You know, a lot of people get fired up and upset about the tax code, right? Well, why is this person paying more tax than this person? Or why does this person have a higher tax rate than that person? Or, you know, Warren Buffett, who's like one of my top 5 hated public figures. I can tell you about that later, maybe why. He'll famously say like, oh, why is my secretary charged at a higher tax rate than I am? You know, and everybody has their complaint about the tax system. But if you just take a step back and you look from the 30,000 foot view, it's like the tax code is just an incentive structure for what the government wants to accomplish, right? Yeah. So it's like the government can't go build all the new housing, but they can give you a big tax break if you build housing, or the government, as much as they're trying to employ everybody, they can't actually employ everybody. So they give you tax credits for employing people. So in my mind, it's like, if you just understand it's a big game of incentive structures from the government saying we want private industry and private capital to take care of the stuff, you're like, well, I might disagree, but at least I understand the game. Yeah. Is that a fair statement, or am I naive, or where would you push back on that commentary?
I think it's a little bit of both, right?
Okay.
Like, you have the basic level understanding of like, it's my money, why do you want it?
Right. Right. Yeah, it pisses me off too. Like, I think taxation is theft. I'm a libertarian. I've got the yellow hat that says taxation is theft. I'm totally in the libertarian camp. And if I don't want to slit my own wrists and just be miserable every day, I kind of have to take a step back and be like, all right, well, maybe the government is trying to use taxation to motivate behavior for a better good. That, you know, maybe. I don't know.
This is so funny. I've been drinking a little bit. I just came from an office party, but I try not to laugh too hard in the mic. But I literally just had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and this guy is one of my best friends and super successful. He just started a pool cleaning company. Shout out to Pool Bros. And not to talk numbers, but he had a pretty good year. You know, he had to make a large investment to buy the pool routes and then to actually hire people to do the route running and stuff like that. And I've actually done some training with him. I think it's pretty cool because it says in chemicals and understanding the chemical balance of the pool. Like, it's just not water, right? It's like there's something going on there. This thing holds on to that. Chlorine actually takes the thing out of it. It's a lot of complicated stuff going on in there. But it's funny, he had a very successful year, and now I'm explaining to him the tax code. He's like, okay, I got all my numbers done. This is how much money's in my bank account. I want to know how much of it is mine, right?
Right.
So when I explained to him that, you know, whatever his tax bracket is, let's say it's 22%. And then if he's self-employed, he actually has to pay 15.3% Social Security and Medicare tax.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's just say it's $100,000, just to make the number simple. That's $22,000 in federal income taxes. And then that's $15,000 in Social Security and Medicare. So that's a lot of taxes from $100,000. If you had $100,000 in your bank account, let's say you didn't spend any money in your home or anything like that, and all the money from the business was there, that's a large portion or chunk to be paying, you know, over $30,000, 30% of your earnings, right?
Yeah.
So it's, when I explained this to him, he's like, whoa. You know, because like, especially when you're in these situations, you're not a W-2 employee, they're withholding it for you. Well, your paycheck is your paycheck. Whatever you get is what you get. And you're like, okay, cool, this is my paycheck. But when you're making it yourself, and now you have estimated tax payments and different things of that nature, and maybe you have to pay a lump sum at the end, you're like, whoa, I didn't realize.
Right.
You know? So it's just funny. So that's to explain that mentality. There are people out there is like, this is my money. I worked hard for this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But to get some pushback on it, 100%. It's an incentivized program. What jumps to mind is monopoly, right? Why is it 200 when you pass go? Right? It's incentive to keep rolling.
Right? Yeah, you got to keep moving. The money has to keep moving, right?
Yeah, so, you know, it's like, don't worry, you'll get past going a little bit, right? So, but the tax code is that, where it's, if you know how to use it, to talk to that experience, I forgot, maybe Warren Buffett you mentioned, why is he paying more than the secretary? We live in a very, even though tax rates might be high, and they don't have to be particularly this high. I'm not budgeting for us, so they know what their budget are. But the thing is that we live in a very fair tax system, in my opinion. You know, shout out to Donald Trump. He actually changed the tax code, made it a lot simpler. Most people used to have to itemize deductions and write off all these things off personally just to get a tax write-off. He raised the standard deduction so high, $12,000 for personal, and I think it's like $25,000 for a married filing jointly couple. So generally speaking, if you're making under that income, you don't even have to pay taxes at all. So you're within the kind of poverty line limits, or what our country would call that, and you don't have to pay no taxes on that whatsoever. And we live in a perpetual system, so meaning that every tier of income you make new tax bracket, it doesn't tax all of your income at that rate. So the first, 12,000 is 0 rate, and maybe the next 30,000 might be at 15%, right? Or let's call it 22%. And then you go up from that, maybe another 50,000. That percentage is going to be at 22%, 24%. And then if you jump all the way to maybe 160,000, now you're in the 32%. So and when you're in the 32%, again, just that last 100,000 is taxed at 32%. So as you increase in income, you're technically going to have only that tier of income attached to a new higher percent. It's not the total number. Right. So it's actually only taxing people that go higher or higher.
Right.
So that's a misconception completely. That
this has to be one of the number one things Americans are ignorant on. Yeah. Like, I formerly lived in the state of California. So if you're at like 39%, 41% federal tax rate and 10% state tax rate, the correct answer is yes. At some point, they do get 50% of every dollar you make, but that's only 50 cents on every dollar that you make, like over $1 million. The first $1 million is taxed at a much lower rate, or whatever, the tax stratifications are. But most people don't think that. They think all the way back to $1, you're losing 50%, which, that's what I want people to think so that they vote for lower taxes, but that's not actually the truth.
Exactly. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception. And when you explain that to people, they're like, okay, because now that's where we come in as a tax advisor. I can make, so do you want to invest this much into your 401k? Is going to drop your income tax, or if you take this much out of your retirement account, it's going to bring your income tax. You could stop right at the level before you go into that new bracket if you have that type of control, right? So it is a system, and I think it gets a lot of critique. That being said, the problem comes in, and it's like a three-part, right? So no, don't tax me at all. It's a really fair system, and then now the problem comes in with loopholes, and it's almost like the law, right? The law is just trying to keep up with humans in reality.
Right.
So
Good luck.
They can't write this fast enough, right?
Right. Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.